Hey everyone, and welcome to the PlayerPref course. Whether you're just starting out in Unity or you're ready to take full control of how your game saves and loads data, you're in the right place. In this series, we'll be building out our own UI and incorporate Unity's PlayerPref system into it. Along the way, you'll learn over 25 Unity concepts with examples and explanations to help you learn. I'm excited to dive into this with you, but before we begin, here's a quick overview of everything you'll learn throughout the course. In video 2, we'll cover what PlayerPrefs is and when it is useful, when the data gets stored, how the PlayerPref saves data, and how it loads it back. In this video, we're going to set up a brand new Unity project and go over a few helpful things you should always do when you first set things up. In video 4, we'll create a simple UI using buttons, text, and string input. We'll also add a background and move things around so the layout looks clean. In video 5, we'll go over all the PlayerPref static methods before we use them. In video 6, we'll look at how to create variables using types like int, float, and string. You'll also learn how to use serialized field, and I'll show you how to add headers in your scripts for better organization. In video 7, here we'll actually create the methods to save and load data using the PlayerPrefs. We'll also cover conditional statements and talk about the null operator, what it is and why it is useful. In video 8, we'll learn how to reset your PlayerPref data, whether you want to clear everything or just specific keys. In video 9, we'll create methods to update the UI based on PlayerPref data. We'll also make some utility functions and cover basic lifestyle methods to keep everything working smoothly. In video 10, we'll add some functionality to save data automatically when the game quits. And I'll introduce you to preprocessor directives and how they can help. In video 11, I'll show you how to connect OnClick events to UI buttons, and we'll also go over some common issues that you can come up with when wiring things up. In video 12, we're going to look at how to access and modify your PlayerPref data directly from the Windows Registry without ever touching the UI. I hope you're excited to get started with this free course. It took a ton of time to make, and so I hope you all enjoy it. Of course, if you get stuck or run into any issues, please just reach out to me in the comments. I'm here to help you out every step of the way. Now, if you have your coffee or your snack ready, let's get started with learning the PlayerPref system. I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to video number 2 in this series. In this video, you'll get a quick overview of the Unity PlayerPref system, what it is, where the data is stored, and how it works behind the scenes. Before we start using it, to help make the future course videos easier to understand, I recommend watching this whole video so you can understand and absorb the information multiple times. Okay, so I'm in the Unity documentation for Unity 6 and looking at PlayerPrefs. So the point of this video is to give you guys a quick introduction of what PlayerPrefs is, and we're going to go over some static methods here later down here. But I wanted to emphasize kind of what it is before we jump too far into it and go more in depth in the future videos. So what PlayerPrefs is, it's a save system that you can use to store string, float, and integer values for your game. Now, I will add that PlayerPrefs is probably better for simple data and not complex data. And that's also because PlayerPrefs, there's no encryption. So you shouldn't use PlayerPrefs to store sensitive data when you're saving it to the user's platform registry. Basically, what this means is that we can store these values, for example, in macOS in a .plist file. If you're on Windows, you're going to be storing them in the registry. An interesting thing about the Windows system is the Windows registry is case insensitive. So because of this, Unity adds a deck-based string to the hash key name. It looks confusing, but it's really not. It basically just allows Unity to store case-sensitive key names, and it prevents naming conflicts. For example, I got my registry right here, and you'll see that these hash names just add a little bit to your key name just so that case sensitivity isn't an issue. Last but not least, we got the PlayerPref static methods. I wish they kind of changed the order of these because you're going to be setting the string first. So for example, if we want to set the string, maybe our player name, we could use set string. If we want to set the player's level, we could use set int. If we want to set their money, we could use set float. So we can use save to save all our keys. We can also use has key to check if a key exists before trying to interact with it. Once we save keys to the registry, we can use get to actually load that data from the registry. So we can use get string, get int, get float. We don't need a key anymore. We can use delete key. We don't need any, and we can use delete all. So this is a quick introduction into Unity PlayerPrefs. In the coming videos, you're going to be going and learning a lot more than what is in this documentation. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you there. That's a quick dive into PlayerPrefs. Super easy to use, great for lightweight data storage, and built right into Unity. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any questions. And I hope to see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. Before we dive into writing any PlayerPref code, first we need to create a fresh Unity project and get everything set up so we're ready to go. This will give us a clean environment to work in and help us stay organized throughout the course. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm in the Unity hub right now, so you probably already know how to make a project, so we won't stay here too long, but click new project. Make sure your editor version is Unity 6, click Universal 3D, and project name, I'm just going to do something like PlayerPref _course, something like that. I'm not going to use a Unity version control, but also make sure your location is set to a good place. And as it creates a project, I'm going to skip forward and I'll see you guys soon. Okay, my project has finished loading. First, what you're going to do is you're going to make the display yours. So what I generally like to do is I have my scene in the top left, my game in the bottom left, I have my hierarchy in the top, bottom, I have the project, and then I have the inspector on the right. Go ahead, make your display however you want, your layout. And then next, we're going to edit our play mode settings and our play mode tints. So to do the first step, we're going to go to Edit, Project Settings, Editor, scroll all the way down, and you're going to have this Enter Play Mode Settings. We're just going to go ahead and disable that so we don't have to keep reloading our scene every time we go into play mode. Just saves us a little bit of time. So make sure it's Do Not Reload Domain or Scene and hit the X. Now we're going to change the screen tint. So go to Edit, Preferences, and what I like to do is I just like to search tint, scroll down a little bit, and you'll have play mode tint. Set that to whatever color you want. I like to do a light blue. I've always liked blue, and I'll hit play, and now you can see that my play mode tint is blue. So make those few changes if you want. I generally like them because it does make it easier and quicker to develop. And that wraps up our project setup. In the next video, we'll start creating the UI using the Canvas system that'll use the PlayerPref system. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you have any issues, please comment down below those. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. Now that we've got our Unity product set up with a clean environment and customized play mode tint, it's time to build the UI that'll drive our PlayerPref system. In this video, we're creating the interactive elements like the input fields, buttons, and sliders that'll help the player interact and load their data seamlessly. Let's get started. A couple things to take note before we get started. I will set in the game view my aspect ratio to full HD. This will be the reference ratio that we'll set later, but I'm going to go ahead and set that now. But now in the hierarchy, let's right click, go to UI and Canvas. This creates the area of which we're putting our buttons and our input fields on. And in this canvas, we want to have a background. So in order to do this, we're going to make sure canvas is selected, right click, go to UI, and put image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set it from white to maybe like a darker background. Maybe I'll just do this blue. There we go. Well, now there's only a few things left we need to do here. So let's rename it to background. And then this little rect transform component, go ahead and click this little box here where it has middle and center. Then you'll get these little anchor presets. Now you're going to hold Alt and left click this stretch. Now there's one thing we needed to do on our canvas, and that if we go back into the canvas scaler component and the UI scale mode property, let's set that to scale with screen size. And we want the reference resolution to be 1920 by 1080. The reason we do this is, well, the majority, let's say about 54% of Steam players play with the 1920 monitor. So we almost want to base our games on the largest audience. Okay, now that we have those two components created, the canvas and the image, let's click the canvas with the left click and then right click on it, go to UI, and let's make a button text mesh pro. You're going to get a prompt here for this TMP importer. You're going to want to import those TMP essentials because those are the resources that will be added to your project that are essential for using Text Mesh Pro. So click import. And once those are imported, you'll be able to just X that out. All right, now that we have this button, let's go ahead and name it to what we want this button to be, which will be int increment button. To make this easier, I'm going to Control A and copy this name for later. But let's go ahead and set the text as well. Later, we're just going to increment by 1. I'm going to rename this to button text. Now, one thing we need to do for this button is we need to change the position and the scale. So I've hit this little button here. This will let you change the X, Y, and the Z all at the same time. If there's a cross in it, that means it's disabled. But if you want to enable it, click it, and it should just be a perfect little chain here, chain link. And let's change it to 3. And now the position is going to be -600, and the Y is going to be -100. Perfect. Now, when you're selecting the int increment button, let's do Control D. And instead of int, let's make this float. That way it's a float increment button. Remove the 1, copy the name as well. Let's paste this and add text at the end. Let's go to the float button. And instead of -600 for the X, let's just make this 0. Now the button's in the middle. Then in the float increment button text, let's just change this to plus 1.5 because this is a float. We're going to want to add 1.5 in the future. Now the next button we want to add is a string input. So click the canvas, right click, go to UI, and let's make an input field. This input field, let's rename to string underscore input. Hit enter. Let's drop this. I guess while we're here, let's go ahead and change the scale to 3. Make sure you enable it. And then the position on the X is going to be positive 600 and the Y is going to be negative 100. On the text area element, let's make this string underscore input text. Okay, now that we got those buttons created, we got to go ahead and make the smaller buttons for resetting, saving, loading, and quitting. So to do that, click the canvas, right click, go to UI, and button. Now this button, we're just going to scale it to 2, so it's a little bit smaller than the ones before. And this button is going to be at -300, so -300. Now we need to make 6 of these buttons. So highlight the button and Control D to make the other ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next, we just got to get the buttons to where they need to be. So this is going to be the save underscore button. And I'm going to copy the name. Inside the button, you have the text. So I'm going to paste in save button text and change this text element here to say save. Next one is going to be our load button. So load underscore button. And the load button is going to be at -375. Okay, I'm going to rename this text element as well to reload button text. And the text is going to say load. Next button here, this is going to be the reset all button. So reset underscore all button. Paste the name in for the text element and add text. And here we're going to do reset all. Now, we do need to make this reset all button at -450. Now, these 3 buttons, we're going to put each one underneath the int, flow, and string input. That way, if we want to just individually reset this string, we can do that. And we don't have to reset everything. Let's go ahead and do that. So this button is going to be the reset underscore int button. Copy that name for later. And this is going to be at -600, -175. Let's rename the text element and put reset int for the text input. Now this button is going to be the reset float. So reset underscore float button. And this is going to be at -175. Let's rename the text and add reset float. Oh, I'll spell that right. And this button here is going to be reset underscore string button. Let's reset the text element name and add text. And for this, we're going to do reset string. Now, we do need to put this at -175 for the Y, and for the X, it's going to be +600. Now, there's one more button that we need to do, and this is going to be the quit button. So quit underscore button. Rename the text, add text. And in the text, let's just add quit. Now, this quit button is going to be at 600 on the X and -375 for the Y. So it's kind of out there all by itself. All right, and now we made all these buttons. Let's go ahead and collapse them all The only thing left we have to make are the counters for the int, float, and the string. Those are pretty easy as well. To make those, all we got to do is just add some text elements. So go to your canvas, UI, and add some text pro. And this first one's going to be, you probably guessed it, at -600, 100 for the Y. And let's make this text a little bit bigger. We'll put 0, 100. Now you'll notice that the 0 is kind of off to the side here. If we hit this center, it's centered. There you go. Simple as that. You can also put this in the middle. That way it's kind of in the middle like that. I will rename this so it does make a little bit more sense. So this will be the int_counter. There, let's make another one. So canvas, right click, UI, and text mesh pro. Now this is going to say 100 for the Y. Let's make the font size 100 as well. And let's make it center and in the middle. And let's change this to 0.00. Last but not least, let's rename it to be float_counter. Now, see if you can make the string counter and put it right above the string input. All right, hopefully you did good. But if you did run into some troubles, we'll go ahead and do it now. So canvas, right click, go to UI, text mesh pro. Let's just name this string_counter right off the bat. And we're going to put this at the 600X. At the Y, we'll go ahead and put that in the 100. I'm just going to put subscribe. There we go. And I'll make it nice and bold too. And I don't want this text to be as big as before, because if we do have a lot of text, it's going to be a pain to see it all. So I'm just going to change it to 50. Now you'll notice that it does kind of look weird. We can change that. But first off, change the alignment. So let's make it center and middle. Now to fix this issue here, for the text wrapping mode, let's change it to no wraps. That way the text doesn't look weird. And there you go. We've made our canvas, we made our background, we made our buttons, and we made the counters that we're going to be manipulating in the future. And that's a wrap for this video. We built our canvas UI and organized everything into place. Up next, we'll dive into the PlayerPrefs static methods and how they work behind the scenes. If you ran into any hiccups, please drop a comment below and I'd love to help out. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one, and like, comment, subscribe, please. Hey everyone, welcome back. Now that our UI is fully set up with buttons, counters, and our string input is ready to roll, it's time to dive deeper into how data is actually stored and retrieved within PlayerPrefs. So one of the best ways to actually understand the static methods in PlayerPrefs is to really just look at an example like this. You can do setInt, setFloat, setString, hasKey, getInt, getFloat, and all those. And then you can also delete the keys. We'll get to those later. But first, let's start with setInt. And this sets a single integer value for the preference identified by the given key. And in order to make this line of code, you need to do PlayerPrefs, which is a class in the Unity engine namespace, .setInt. This is the method in the PlayerPrefs. Then we're going to make a name for the key, and then we'll set a value for the key. And this is a debug.log message, just so that we can see in the console later that this was created. Same thing for setFloat. We're doing PlayerPrefs.setFloat. We're going to make the key name in parentheses, and then set the value for that key. Same thing for setString. So let's see these in action. In order to do that, you need to attach this script to a game object so that this script can actually run. And I'm just going to attach this, let's just attach it to the canvas. So I'll drag it over into the inspector, and you can see the PlayerPrefs example script is in there. And we're just going to, actually, real quick, let's look at the registry. I'm going to pop up the registry. This is going to be the location of where those keys are stored. As you can see, we got computer, HKey current user, software, Unity, Unity editor, default company, and PlayerPrefs course. If you're not sure where default company and PlayerPrefs course comes from, I'll show you right now. So go to edit, project settings, player, company name, default company, product name, PlayerPrefs course. Let's drag that over here and let's bring the registry back over, and you can see where these values are coming from. So default company is coming from the company name. PlayerPrefs course is coming from the product name. Now, as you can see, we only have these Unity Cloud, Unity Player Session, and Unity Graphics Quality keys right now. As soon as we hit play, we're going to be able to see the keys that we're trying to create. So let's hit play. And then I need to refresh this. So view, refresh. now we have a high score username and a volume key. Now you're probably wondering, why are these little hashes after the key names? Well, Windows is case insensitive, meaning, for example, if we had a completely capitalized high score key name and a completely lowercase high score key name, Windows would treat those the same because Windows is case insensitive. But Unity, when it's saving these keys to the local system, it's doing some checking before saving, and it identifies that, oh, we're saving to a Windows computer. So in order to help distinguish key names, I'm going to add this little hash. And so that's why you have a little hash after this high score. So let's go back to the script and see the other methods that we can run. Next, you have the has key. A good reason to use has key is making sure that the data actually exists before accessing it, so your game doesn't crash or return default values unexpectedly. As you can see, debug.log, and I'm pretty sure we even saw the console message here. There you go. Has key, high score exists, which is true. Go ahead and check out the other ones. Get int. We'll get the int values that correspond to the key in the player preferences. Get float, we'll get float values. Get string, we'll get string values. And then I did highlight these out because I didn't want them to run, but if we unhighlight these, when we actually run this script, it's going to delete all of them. So I'm going to let my editor compile the changes that we made to the script. And as soon as that's done, we're going to hit play. And then we're going to go back to the registry. Right now, this hasn't refreshed at all. So let's go to view, refresh, and now you can see that those values are gone. Well, that's this temp value. That's interesting. Oh, it's this temp value. Okay. As you see, we're setting an int of a temp value of 1, and then we're saving it. So that's why you see that little temp value. In this video, we covered the static methods that are involved in PlayerPrefs, like setInt, getString, and hasKey, and unpacked what each one of these does before we jump into scripting our own PlayerPrefs script. Understanding these methods now will help with creating our PlayerPrefs save, load, script later. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment down below your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. Now that we've covered our core PlayerPref methods, it's time to start building our custom PlayerPref script. In this video, we'll define our key variables, set up references for better performance, and use constants to keep our keys typo-proof and easy to maintain. Let's jump in. I'm back in the PlayerPref course, and what you want to do first is make sure you go to the Assets folder, right-click, and let's make a new folder by going to Create in Folder. Let's name this Scripts. Go into that scripts folder. And then once you're in that folder, right click and go to create mono behavior script. And I'm just going to call this PlayerPref manager. Okay. Open it up. And we don't need the start or update method. So I'm going to first go ahead and delete that. To make this a little bit organized, I'm going to be using headers. That way we can see it in the inspector. So the first one we're going to make is header parentheses. Then in the parentheses, you're going to have int counter. There we go. And then under this, this is going to be the serialized field, private text mesh pro underscore text, int text. Now you'll see how TMP underscore text is an error right now, and that's because we haven't imported the TMP namespace. So let's go ahead and do that using TMP pro. There you go. Now that error should have gone away. After this, we're going to make the private int counter and set this equal to 0. Now the int text, this is going to be the UI element showing int counter, the value for int counter that we're going to reference in our script. And then the int counter is going to be the counter stored in our script. There we go. Now that we made the int, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it. Turn this int into float. Float. Then we also need to change this to a private float. And then change this into float counter. And same thing here, float text. This is going to be the UI element showing float counter. If you don't need these comments, go ahead and erase them in your code. And this float counter is the counter stored in our script for the float value. Last but not least, we do need to make a variable for the input field. So to do that, I'm going to do header. Oh, wow. Header, parentheses. Now let's call this string input. There we go. Let's make another serialized field. That way we can see it in the inspector. Then it'll be private TMP underscore input field, because we're working with a Text Mesh Pro input field element. And let's call this variable string input, which will be the input field for user string. I'm going to make another serialized field, and this is going to be the private Text Mesh Pro underscore text. And this will be the string display. Now, when you're working with PlayerPrefs, it's a good idea to turn these keys into constants. The reason being is because, well, these can't change throughout your code. And you don't want those keys changing, because then you're going to have multiple key names that could mean the same thing. And that's not good for your code. To make those constants, I'm going to hit Control plus Alt and the down arrow key so I can edit multiple lines in my Visual Studio Code and start typing out private const string. Don't really want these. We're going to have the first one be a int underscore key that's equal to int value. And then this is going to be the float underscore key that is equal to the float value. And you probably already guessed it, but this is going to be the string underscore key. And this is going to be equal to our string value. That's a wrap for this video. Your variables, references are now set up. In the next video, we'll work on setting up our data manipulation and reset methods. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment below your thoughts. And thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. In the last video, we set up our variables and references. Now it's time to add more to our PlayerPref manager script by creating the data manipulation and save load methods. Let's hop into it. Okay, before we jump into any scripting, I want to give a quick overview of what we're going to be doing in this video. And that is, we're going to be making some methods here that are actually going to allow the changes of our int value, float value, and our string. And then we're also going to be making the methods for the save and load. So let's go ahead and jump in. So if you're not already, go into your scripts folder in the PlayerPref manager, double click that so it's open. And I did notice I did make a mistake in the last video that you need to put a F after this 0, and then also put a U after this P in your header string input. And if you got those, you are a great programmer. So now, to make it easier when we're changing the values, and if we ever want to change the values, we're going to want to make a variable for the add int, for say, or the add float. So we're going to do that here. Private int add int. I cannot spell. And we're going to make this 1. And then we're going to do a private float add float equal to 1.5. So we can get that float value. We don't have to do anything for the string. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our increment float value here. We do need to make this a public method so that game objects are able to access this script. So we'll do a public void increment int here. And then in this script, we will do int counter, compound assignment operator here. And we'll do int counter plus our add int. And then to make it easier for ourselves in the future, we will be making a commented out section of this for update int UI. There we go. And I'm going to make this easier on myself. I'm just going to copy this and go ahead and just paste that in here. We're just going to need to change a few things, such as the int to float. And then instead of int counter, hold Alt to select another area of the script and just add float. And then we need to do add float here instead. I guess we should also change that as well. So everything here should say float and there should be no int. And then we need to add our onString change. So if I paste in here, public void onString change, let's walk through this. So if string input is not null, meaning it exists, and string display is not null, meaning it exists and something's assigned to it, that means the string input.text is going to be assigned to the string display.text. So anything in the string input, as you can see here, is the input field, is going to be the value for the string display. That's what the user is going to be able to see. Alrighty, now that we got that, we will be creating our save methods here. And to save some time, I'm going to go ahead and just paste the save data method here, and we'll walk through it. So string input text is equal to string input, and then we have the new null conditional operator text, and then we have the else, set it to this. And I know this probably looks very confusing, but I'm going to give you guys the extended version. First, we're creating a string input text, and then we're assigning it this value. And what this value is string input text. If the string input is not null, meaning it exists, then the input text is equal to the string input.text. So the string input, remember, the string input is what is inside the input field. Then that means the string input.text is assigned to the input text. Else, if the input text does not exist, then we're just going to assign it the value of this empty string. If you do need any help on this, just feel free to ask in the comments below. And then, as mentioned in the earlier part of the course, setInt, setFloat, and setString are used to save keys with their values to the registry or wherever those are saved. And so we have PlayerPrefs.save, which is going to force an immediate write of that data. It's going to save all this data whenever the save data method is called. And then we just have this debug.log message. That way we can see in the console that, yep, data was saved successfully. And then I'm also going to paste the load data method in as well, and we will go over it. So since we just saved the data, we also need to create the load data method so that we can actually pull that data from the registry, for example. And to do that, we're using the .get methods. So .getFlow, .getInt, .getString. This is just pulling the values from the registry. And then if no data exists, then we're going to be using these default values. And then this part of the string is basically to help prevent any crashing in the future. So if string input is not null, meaning it exists, then save string is assigned to the string input.text. So the save string value is assigned to the string input, which if we go back up, then that is what is going to be in the input field, what you're going to be able to see. And then the string display, same thing here. If it is not null, meaning it is assigned, then that means we're going to be taking the save string and then assigning it to the string display. That way you can see it in the UI. And then if there's no issues within this load data, we have a debug.log that is telling us that this ran successfully. That's it for this video. We now have our data manipulation and save load methods that'll help with making changes to our int, float, and string values. In the next video, we'll focus on resetting data by adding methods to clear values and give users the option to start fresh whenever they need. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment below your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. In the last video, we added onto our PlayerPref Manager script by adding data manipulation and save load methods. Now it's time to expand that script by creating some methods to help reset data. Let's jump into it. All right, so we're in the project now, and before we start scripting, I do want to give you a quick overview of the changes we're going to be making. So we're going to be making some methods for the reset int, reset float, reset string, reset all, and then we're going to be making some reset values method that we're going to just be using within the script. So with that said, let's go to our scripts folder and double click that PlayerPref Manager. Once you're in the script, scroll all the way down, and I've already typed all the commands up just to save some time, so I will just be copy and pasting those. But we will be going over every single part of those scripts, so don't worry, I'm not just going to leave you in the dust. And the first method that we're going to be doing is this public void reset all data. What this is going to do, don't worry about these error codes for now, just comment them out because we will be making those later. But this reset all data method is going to be assigned to the reset all button within our UI. So if we go back to our UI, this method is going to be in charge of this reset all button. I'm going to hop back in. And then we have this reset values, which is going to reset the internal counters and UI elements within this script. So we'll be able to see that all better when it comes together. But mainly what this is going to do is it's going to set our float, int counter, and string display to nothing. Then we have clear PlayerPrefs. This is going to clear the PlayerPrefs, so it's going to remove all those keys. Then this update UI method is going to update the UI to reflect the reset state. So what that means is after we reset all the values, we need to update the UI. Otherwise, the player is going to still see the older values, right? And then we just have a debug.log message that says all data has been reset. Now, after this method, we want to start making the methods for the int, float, and reset string. So let's go ahead and create those. So this reset int button will be the first button we'll go over. As always, I'm just going to hit Control and then the / so I can comment out this whole line. So this reset int will be assigned to the reset int button. And you're probably thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, later in a future video, we're going to be going to the reset int button game object, scrolling down, and then there'll be this OnClick. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to do a plus sign. We're going to drag the canvas to this little box, and then we're going to select the reset int. That way, when someone hits the reset int button, then the OnClick event for that will be a method that is in a script attached to the canvas game object. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, that's fine. We're going to be going over that in a future video. So I'm going to hop back into our script. So our reset int button is going to be assigned to the reset int button. What this is going to do is it's going to assign the int counter to 0. When we want to reset the int, we are deleting the key, and then we're setting the key, basically making it again with the new value of the int counter, which should be 0. Then we're going to be saving the PlayerPrefs save so that the new value is updated. And then last but not least, we need to update the UI to reflect the changes. After the reset int button, we're going to be doing the reset float. Same thing as last time. I'm going to do Control / on this update float UI because that'll be created in a future video. And similar to the reset int, we are setting the float counter to 0. We're deleting the key. We're making a new key with the new float counter value. Then we're saving it. And then later, we're going to update the float UI to reflect the changes. Next is the reset string. And this looks familiar with what you've kind of seen in the past. And that is true. We could probably create a method to do this, but that's all right. It's a small script. Similar to the reset float and reset int, we will be deleting the key, setting the key, and saving the key. And then last but not least, we have the reset values. This is the first method that we saw earlier in the video. So this little guy right here that's currently commented out, we can probably uncomment that now because now that we actually have it in the script. Okay, go ahead and do a Control S to save your script so that that little white dot goes away. Now, if you click back into your inspector, Unity should start compiling your script. Okay, after that's done compiling, if you're taking a break for the day, make sure to do a Control S within your editor because you might be seeing this little asterisk next to your editor version. That means your project's not saved. So do a Control S and that little asterisk has gone away. That's it for this video. Now that our reset methods are in place, in the next video, we'll add lifecycle-based UI updates and some handy utility methods. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment down below your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. In the last video, we built our data reset methods. Now it's time to add the rest of our script functionality to get things working. Let's jump into it. We are back in the UI, and before we jump into things, I do want to give a quick review as always. In this video, we're going to be making the lifecycle start method. And honestly, to do that, it'd probably be best just to jump in the PlayerPrefs manager script. So go ahead and jump in if you're not already. And we are going to be making the start method in our script. We're also going to be making these update flow, update int UIs that we commented out last video. And then if we scroll down even more, we're going to be adding a utility method, clear PlayerPrefs, so that we can just clear all the strings. If you're not already, scroll up to the top of your script. Generally, I like to make my start method underneath my variables and references. So I'm going to do a private void start parentheses, and then we'll have some curly brackets. And there's going to be two methods that we're going to be putting in here. Load data, because whenever the script gets read by memory, we want to load the data from the PlayerPrefs. And then, oh, don't forget your little semicolon. Okay, and then go to the next line. And then after we load that data, we want to update the UI with that data. So we're going to do update UI parentheses. There we go. And don't worry, it's 100% okay if you get an error because we haven't made that method yet. So I'm going to do a Control + /. That way we don't get an error. Now, let's go ahead and make our update methods. The first one that we're going to make is the update int UI. This guy right there. And since these are just referenced within the script, we can make these private. We don't need to make these public like the other ones. We're not assigning that method to an OnClick event for a game object. So we can just do private void update int UI curly brackets. First, let's check for a null reference error. So let's do if int text does not equal null, meaning there is a game object assigned to it in the inspector. And what I mean by that is, well, in the future, we're going to be assigning int text within our canvas. And let's finish this out. So we have if int text does not equal null, meaning there is a game object assigned in the inspector, then int text dot text is equal to the int counter dot string, or toString I meant. Now, the reason you want to do toString is because in our script, the int counter value is an int. So we need to do toString in order to display that value in the int text, right? In the UI. And that's all we need to do for the update int UI. The update float UI is going to be pretty similar. So what I'm going to do is just copy the code that I made before this and just paste it in, and then we'll walk through it. So it's private void update float UI. If float text is not null, meaning there's a game object assigned in the inspector. Hopefully you guys are getting annoyed of me saying that. But float text dot text is going to equal the float counter, again, toString, and then we want it to be by 2 decimal places, so we're going to do F2. If we only wanted 1, then we would do F1. So that's it for the update float UI. Next is the update UI. So I'm going to hit enter a few times, and then we're going to go down here. This will also just be used within the script, so we can make it private. Private void update UI curly brackets. And in this, we're just going to be doing the update int UI. Be sure to put your parentheses and then the semicolon, and then update float UI, parentheses, semicolon. Okay, and for the clear PlayerPrefs, I've already typed this out, so I'm just going to paste it in to save some time. Control V and save. And let's go ahead and walk through it. Don't worry if the color is kind of dull, that just means it's unused and we'll fix that later. But what this method is doing is it's deleting the keys like the int key, the float key, and the string key, and then we'll just remake those. So for example, now let's go up in our script and uncomment the methods that we need to uncomment. So update float UI, update int UI is one we need to do. We've made these two, so highlight both those lines and do a control plus /. And then we can also go up to here, and here, and here. Let's see what our error codes are. Oh, I did not put the semicolon after these. There we go. Now, if you save, you shouldn't have any errors. If you do, feel free to just comment in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to help you out. All right, and that's all the scripting we're going to do for this video. We made a private void start. So that's going to load the data from the registry and it's going to update the UI. And all our update methods are down here at the bottom. We have update int UI, update float UI, and update UI. And then lastly, we made a clear PlayerPrefs that are deleting the keys whenever we call it. Now that our UI updates and utilities are in place, it's time to tackle autosave and quit detection so that we can make sure our progress is preserved whenever the player exits the application. I cannot speak. Unity usually does this natively, but it's still helpful to add these just in case. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment down below your thoughts. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. In the last video, we improved our script with real-time UI updates and utility helpers. Now it's time to implement autosave functionality and detect when the game is quitting, so we don't lose data. Let's go. All right, so before we jump too far into things, as mentioned earlier, we will be making the application quit method and the autosave functionality method. Reason why we would want to do these things, let's say if we're doing multiple things at once, if we leave this game, we'd want to make sure that we're saving progress just in case we accidentally exit the game and stuff like that. You don't want the user losing hours of progress. We want to try and save it when we can and prevent accidental loss of saves. All right, I am in the script now, and what you're going to want to do is kind of just scroll down to the bottom of the script. And the first method that we're going to be making underneath our clear PlayerPrefs is our quit method. This is going to be the method used for the quit button in our UI. And I got a quick question before we make the quit application method. Do you guys think this is going to be a public or a private method? I'll give you guys a couple seconds to think. But if you said public, you are right, because we will need to attach this to the button game object. So our quit button right here. The reason why is because when we assign it to the OnClick, if it's private, we're not going to be able to access the script on another game object. So we want it to be public here. So I'm going to hop back into that script again. And let's start making it. So we have public void quit application, parentheses, and then some curly brackets. Now, to make this compatible with not only the Unity editor, but maybe our future game, we're going to use something called a preprocessor directive. Now, if you have no idea what this is, that's 100% okay. We're not going to go too in depth, so this isn't a course for that. But if you want me to explain this more in the future, feel free to let me know and maybe I can make a video over it. But technically, just pretty much what this is preprocessor directives. They help control what code gets compiled based on the platform that the user is using. So for example, right now, we're using the Unity editor right in here. So let's create this. All you got to do is a hashtag to start off. And then it's basically the same thing as a conditional statement. So if Unity underscore editor, and that's it. You can only have that on the line. You can't have any code. And here's a quick list if you're kind of curious about the other preprocessor directives. You got Unity Editor, you got Unity Editor Linux, you got Unity Standalone Win. This is for like Windows desktops. And they got Unity iOS, Unity Android. So these are great if you want to run certain code for certain platforms. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. And now we want to make some code for the Unity editor. So what we're going to do is Unity editor dot editor application dot is plain. The reason we want to set it to false is when we start the Unity editor, this value is going to be true. So whenever we hit the button, then this value will be false and the editor will quit. And then if we were making this for a game, we would do a hashtag else, next line, then you just do something like application dot quit. Then you'd make another method and a semicolon. All right. And lastly, we just got to make a hashtag and if. This is going to be for any code that we want to run at the very end. For example, if it's a Unity editor, this is going to run. If it's going to be anything else, this is also going to run. And just to make sure that this quit application runs, we're going to do a debug.log. And inside that debug, we're just going to say something like quit button was pressed. Don't forget the semicolon at the end. And that's going to wrap up our whole quit application. This is what's going to be attached to that quit button in the future. That'll be in the next video. Let's go ahead and make that autosave functionality. It's a lot easier than you think. So this will be only accessed within inside the script. So we'll make it private. And we'll do private void on application focus. And this is actually a native Unity callback. So whenever the player is inside the Unity editor, this is going to be true. If the player exits the editor, then this will be false. And we can actually get this by doing a keyword of bool and then a parameter of, let's say, it could be anything, but let's just make it has focus. That's basically what we were assigning the value of this bool. Now that we have that, we can go inside the method here and just start typing if parentheses the opposite of has focus, because we want it to be false. For example, if the player's not in the editor, which this would be false, then we're going to do save data, just so that all the data is saved. So let's run through this one more time for repetition. This private void on application focus is being used to store a value of true or false. So if the player is in the editor, it's going to be true. If the player leaves the editor, then it's going to be false. Then we're going to save the data. So if false, save the data. We're going to call this method, and then it's going to save the data. All right, that's really all we did. We made this quit application method that we're going to be assigning to our quit button in the next video. And then we also made this on application focus so that we can easily save the data whenever this application loses focus. Now that our quit detection and autosave are in place, it's time to add all our OnClick events in the UI so players can interact with them using buttons. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, or comment below your thoughts. I love to hear from you guys, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hey everybody, welcome to the course. In the last video, we added quit detection and automatic saving. Now it's time to assign OnClick events to buttons, and then I'll do a quick demonstration at the end to show you guys how everything works. Let's go ahead and get started. As always, I'll give a quick overview of what we're going to be doing in this video, and that is we're going to be making a game object for our PlayerPref manager script. We're just probably going to call it something like PlayerPref manager, and then we're going to be assigning this PlayerPref manager to that game object we've just created. Then we're going to be assigning those methods we created within this PlayerPref Manager script in the buttons that we have on our UI so that they actually work and do something. Then once we assign all the methods to the buttons, we're going to give a quick demonstration of the UI and what we built. If you have any issues along the way, go ahead and comment in the comment section below, but let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is just going to right click inside this hierarchy and we're going to create an empty game object. I'm just going to type PlayerPref_manager and just going to drag this up above the canvas. You don't have to. Make sure you're in your scripts folder so that you can see your PlayerPref Manager script and assign that to your PlayerPref Manager. You should see all these game components attached. And I think we might have actually assigned it to our canvas earlier, but let's actually remove that if it is. Now in the PlayerPref Manager script, we have our int counter, our flow counter, and our string input. We're going to need to assign game objects to these in the inspector. That way we don't have no reference errors. And so this int text is going to be the int counter. Then we have the float text for the float counter, which is going to be the float counter. Then for the string input game object is going to be the string input. So drag that over. And then the string display is going to be the string counter. So let's start off with the int increment button. Scroll down till you see the OnClick. Then you're going to drag your PlayerPref Manager to that missing object. Then click the no function. Now you can see the script attached to this game object, which is PlayerPref Manager. And since this is the int increment button, find that method, which is increment int, and there you go. Let's actually go into game view and test this out. So I'm gonna hit the play button here, and you'll notice it's 0, but if I hit 1, it goes to 1, but I'm gonna hit 1 again, and you're gonna notice something strange. All right, now it's 3, 7, 15. It's almost like we have an issue here, and we do. So let's go ahead and pause this, and let's jump back into our script. And I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can find the error here in this method. All right, were you able to find the error? Well, the error is because we're actually adding the value of the int counter plus our add int. So if we remove this, and let's actually remove it from the float as well. Now that we fixed that, let's go back to our UI. So I'm gonna minimize this, let it compile. And now if we hit play, and we hit the +1 button, it's only going up by 1. So that's perfect. Let's go ahead and keep assigning these methods. So with the float increment button, scroll down, then hit the plus sign, drag the PlayerPref Manager game object, and then find the method as normal. So we have increment float. And if we hit the play button here, we can actually test our string. There we go. Everything is looking good. It is kind of weird how the values are actually going down like this. One way to fix this is to go to your float counter. And instead of having text wrapping mode set to normal, set that to no wrap. That way it goes straight. Then I'm gonna hit the stop button to go back to our editor. And let's keep assigning some more methods. So let's go to the string input. We'll go to the onValue changed. So hit the plus icon, drag the PlayerPref Manager, go to the method, PlayerPref Manager, and then onString changed. There we go. Now let's go ahead and test this onString change. So I'm gonna hit the play button to go into game view, change the subscribe to hello. Didn't quite spell that right. Hello. Nice. And I guess I just realized I made the changes for that flow counter while in game view. Common issue you're going to expect as a Unity game developer. So I'm going to hit the pause button here, go back to the flow counter and set the text wrapping mode back to no wrap. There. Now that issue should be fixed. Now let's apply the save button. So OnClick, drag the PlayerPref Manager, and then we'll have to find save data. There we go. Let's also do the load button, PlayerPref Manager, and load data. Reset all. I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of them. This will be the reset all data method. And then we have the reset int button. This will be the reset int float. Reset float is next. PlayerPref Manager, drag that. And if we want to reset the string, +1 on the onClick events, PlayerPref Manager, then do reset string, quit button, drag the PlayerPref Manager, and then select the quit application. All right, now that we got all our methods assigned, let's go ahead and test them. So if we do +1 on the int, reset it, it'll go back to 0, and you get continue, keep adding 1, reset it. Same thing for the float. We can reset it. We can hit save and save all the data so that next time we load into this, we see 0 and 0. We can also change this to subscribe. Oh my goodness, I did not spell it right. So subscribe. We could make a default value of input something here. And we can actually fix that by going to the string input game object right here in your hierarchy. Then go into the string input text, go to the placeholder and just put in enter something here. Now, if you hit play, there'll be some text in there, but we can resize it so it actually fits a little bit better. About 12. Will that be good? There we go. That's a little bit better. Can I do bold? Make it a little bit smaller. There we go. All right, there. Now you can kind of see something. It has enter something here. That way, if we hit play, there'll always be something here in the input field. If you want to make this more fancy, you could color your buttons pretty easily. For example, if I want to reset my int increment button, I could do this by going to the color and just making it a little bit gray or something. Then I could go to my float increment button, select the color, hit the dropper, and select the gray so that this is also the same color as our int. And I guess I'll just do that for the string input as well. Maybe for the reset buttons, reset all, you could have this be red, reset int. Maybe I want this orange. Use the dropper to select the orange, make it easier. And that way they all are all the same. There we go. And if I want to make the save color green, again, just hit the green. Maybe I'll make the load blue and I'll make the quit. How about a dark red? Just like that. And if you want to make these bold so they stand out a little bit more, you can just go to the button text and hit bold. Then you get that nice +1. I guess I'll just do these to all my buttons real quick. Now, if you want to make your UI a little bit more customized, you can easily do that by right-clicking in your hierarchy. And we're going to make a UI image. And I guess let's just call this logo. There we go. Now we can see our white box, but that's not really that cool. We can move it and all that stuff, but we actually want to add an image. So to do that, just right-click into your assets. It could be anywhere. So to do that, just drag and drop a picture that you want in your UI. Right now, I'm just going to choose my YouTube banner. And you'll notice that if we go back to our logo, we can only add sprites. Like if we try and drag our YouTube banner, it's not going to let us because it's not a sprite. So we need to convert this image into a sprite. And to do that, you just got to click the image. You'll notice the texture type is currently set to default. Change that to sprite, 2D, and UI. And then you'll be able to install the 2D sprite package here. Click that button. Who reads that? Just click yes. It'll work, right? Hopefully. Once this is done, you should get a sprite editor pop up. So I'm going to wait for this to be done. Hey, there it is. So you should be able to see your image here. Now to just turn this image into a sprite, hit slice tab, slice. You'll see a little box around your image. You can click anywhere else to get rid of that box. And then as soon as you hit apply, your image will turn into a sprite. So I'm going to hit apply. You'll notice now it's a sprite because you got that little plus, or not plus, but you got that play icon. I'm going to exit out of this, go back into my logo and drag my newly created sprite into the source image. That is a little bit small. So now I will go ahead and just open up the rect transform and I'm going to hit Alt and click this stretch button with the left click. Then I'm going to make the top a little bit bigger. To do that, I'm just going to make a scale of Y 3.5. Okay, to recap, we've added all our methods to our buttons here. We've tested the buttons. We've also fixed a few issues that we came across, and then we added a logo to our UI. So I'm curious to see what you guys made. So be sure to join the Discord and share what you've made. Good job making this UI. Go ahead and Control S to save your project, just to make sure you don't lose any progress. Now that our buttons and OnClick events are in place, it's time to take a peek under the hood and learn how to edit PlayerPrefs data directly in the registry to understand the security side of PlayerPrefs. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, or comment below your thoughts. Thank you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hey everyone, welcome back to the course. In the last video, we connected our buttons to events and gave players direct control over save and load. Now it's time to access the Windows Registry and modify PlayerPref data manually to show you guys how easy it is for the player to modify the saved data and why you shouldn't use PlayerPrefs to store sensitive data. Well, let's dive in here. Hey everybody, welcome back. And in this video, we're going to be changing the int values, the float values, and the string values in the registry and not in the UI. So we're going to kind of be mimicking what a player might do for your game. For example, if this int value is the player's level, or this float value is the player's money, or maybe we don't want the player seeing this, they can change that within the registry so that when the game loads up, it's going to be loading in with those changes that they made. And you can actually find these keys by looking in the registry. So here's the registry. It's in computer, The location is computer, HKey current user, software, Unity, Unity editor, default company, and PlayerPref course. If you're not sure where these two values are, it's your product name and your company name. So go to edit, product settings, and your company name is default company. So I'll load this up so you can see side by side. And then the product name is your PlayerPref course. Those will kind of determine where your keys are stored. So if you'll see, all the keys that we've been currently storing is the float key, the int key, and the string key. So let's go ahead and change the int value, which I guess let's say is the player's level. All you got to do is right click the key, hit modify, change the space to decimal, because you probably don't know hexadecimal. I'm not the very best at it, but I do know decimal. And let's say I just want to make myself level 11. Type in 11, hit OK. And now you'll notice there's 11 there. B is just the hexadecimal version of 11. So once you get past 10, it starts going to letters all the way to F. So you'll have A, B, C, D, E, F. And so now that we've changed this key, we're going to go back into the editor. We should be seeing 11 as soon as we hit play, and we do. So now the player is 11. That was how easy it was to change those values if you use PlayerPrefs. Okay, so now we're level 11, but we still have no coins, right? Our cash is $0.00. And we can easily change this now by going into the registry again, right-clicking, modify, and you can find these values online with a quick Google search. So to make it, let's say, $50.50, all you would need to do is backspace a few times. And it looks like all I need to enter is C0, 4B, and 40. Hit OK. Oh, I need to make sure I don't do it inside the game because we save it on exit. So let's jump back into the registry, right click, modify, retype that. So C0, 4B, 40. Hit OK, go back into the Unity editor, and now we should have $55.50. So now we're level 11. We got $55.50. And now we don't want to be seeing this. Okay, let's go ahead and change that as well. Get out of the editor so we don't accidentally not make any changes. And let's go to the registry, right click, and modify. Strings are a little bit easier here because we're not encrypting anything. We can actually just see the string value here. And we'll notice that each byte is representing a character and 20 represents a space. So if we delete the 20 and everything before it, it's just going to say this message. So delete everything. Looks like it's just going to be saying subscribe. So hit OK, jump back into the game, hit play. And just like that, we've changed the PlayerPrefs keys without changing it in the UI. And let's say I start playing the game. I level up again a few times, right? I start gaining some money. And I add some more exclamation points to this string. And then I save. We can see all those changes back in the registry. Now, it's not going to show it now, but if we hit F5, that's going to refresh these keys in the registry. And there you go. We see that the int value is 14, as you see in the UI. And the float value looks very weird, but this equals 73.5. And then the string value, right click, modify, and you can see it in plain text or what the value of that key means. And just like that, the player was easily able to change these keys. They were able to make it so that they could change their level, they could give them some more coins, they could change the string to whatever it is. So if you're not really worried about this, you just have a basic game, or that you're not storing any personal information, then you can use the PlayerPrefs. If it's just a basic game, you're just learning, then you could use the PlayerPrefs. It's very simple to set up. But that's how easy it is to change your int key, your float key, and your string key. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. Now that's a wrap for this tutorial series. If you made it this far, congratulations. You're taking the steps to be a good game developer and learning features of Unity such as PlayerPrefs. If there are any common issues during this tutorial series, I'll be sure to make videos after this one addressing those so you have access to those solutions. Before I wrap up this video, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my tutorial series. This course was my first Unity course I made, and I want to make them as good as possible. So please let me know of anything you liked, didn't like, and anything in between, because these videos are for anyone wanting to learn Unity, and your feedback will help the lives of future game devs a lot easier. As always, if you enjoyed this series, please like and subscribe for the YouTube algorithm, and I hope to see you in the next one.